Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 25 of the Everything Money or not Everything Money. That's your podcast.
That's mine.
The Business and Beyond podcast. So, hey, I'm your host, Chris Doyle, along with Paul Gabrail, the big boss himself.
Is that so? That was gonna be our first question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Paul, hey, how you doing today?
Wonderful.
So before we started, I asked, we were kind of talking a little bit about how we're going to run the podcast today. I said, well, listen, I'm the novice, you're the master. And you said, why am I the master? And I said, well, I don't know. Like, you're perceived as the master.
Why am I perceived as the master?
Because, it sounds like you have an answer for everything out there.
I have an answer for the things I've thought about. If I haven't thought about it or I don't understand it, I don't have an answer for it.
Like Bitcoin.
No, I have an answer for Bitcoin. I've never been able to meet anybody who's properly explained why Bitcoin. And of course, they'll say, oh, you don't get the technology. As I was telling you, I've literally never met a single person I respected who said Bitcoin is awesome. There are a lot of idiots I know who say Bitcoin's awesome. And I'm just like, yeah, you're stupid. But something like, for example, let's go to extreme, like Medicare. I don't understand Medicare. So if somebody said to me, Paul, what do you think about Medicare? I'd be like, well, listen, the only thing I have to say is run by the government. It's probably inefficient. That's it. Mm-hmm. So I like to keep my opinions on the things that I've thought about. Mm-hmm. When I think about something, I try to think about it pretty thoroughly. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean I catch everything. I don't. I might be wrong on Bitcoin, but
when it comes to investing, the economy, things like that, those are things that narrow focus. That it's not a broad area of knowledge, right? It's just very focused.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people with PhDs who don't agree with me. There's people with PhDs who say they believe in a thing called modern monetary theory. If you go look that up, whoever's watching, I think it's a load of crap. But PhDs and world-class economists believe in it. And I'm like, So if somebody's here and believes in it who has a PhD and I'm sitting here as a local business owner saying it's a bunch of baloney, that's why I sit there when people say the master. I was talking to one of the people we were talking about earlier. We're not going to mention the name, the guy who's a Bitcoin enthusiast, right?
Sure, yep.
He told me, he's like, oh, you're a value investor. I love Bill Miller. I'm like, yeah, I think Bill Miller is the biggest scam of a value investor of all time. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah, he's not a value investor. He's an idiot. Yeah. And so, but here's a guy who's made a lot of money and though people perceive him. I always say to people extreme, well, Bernie Madoff made a lot of money. And then we find out he was a scammer. I feel like that's different. I'm like, it's not different.
Yeah.
Like I try to stay in the sphere of where I understand. And if I understand it, I do it. If I don't understand it, I don't do it. Mm-hmm. But people perceive when you don't do something, they don't believe in it. Mm-hmm. That could be true sometimes or could be not true. But the whole point I'm trying to make is I understand what you're saying. Like, you're a wrestler. I'm not a wrestler. If I want to learn wrestling, you're the master, I'm the novice. Yeah. From that perspective. But between you and Hesh, who knows wrestling more? I don't know who knows wrestling more. Mm-hmm. Who?
Probably Hesh, he's older.
So you'd be more of the novice than the master to Hesh. But to me, you're both masters. So it's all relative.
It's all relative for sure. Well, in this case, if we're talking investing like that, I am the novice, right?
In this relative sense. But I don't want people out there thinking, there's probably somebody out there watching who's a better investor than me. We have a community of over 12,000 people who've signed up. Mm-hmm. And I always tell them, like, guys, there's no way I'm the best investor in this group. There's no chance. Mm-hmm. But they all look at me, I'm like this master investor. I'm like, no, just think about something. You're like, Paul, what do you think of this? I'm like, what do you think of it? Yeah. They're like, well, I want you to tell me. Like, no, I'm trying to hear to teach a process.
100%.
Yeah.
And there's a good segue to just kind of beginning because that's pretty much how the rest of the conversation will go. But Paul, for those who don't know you, just kind of talk about yourself. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What you're involved in and stuff like that.
I was born in the Middle East, came to the U.S. when I was 3, moved all over, ended up in Ohio. I went to University of Michigan, studied economics, which, what a waste of time. I should have studied. Yeah, what a waste of time. Everything I learned in economics, I got to learn by reading a book. Yeah. It was stupid. I wasted $33,000 back in 2000, $33,000 a year of my dad's money on an economics degree that I could have gotten by, $1,000 of the books from the Time Borders bookstore. But now I started a business back in 2005 that the main goal was just to buy apartment buildings and have somebody else manage them. And now it's transformed into 8 or 9 different businesses. And we also have a YouTube channel now where we teach my process. It didn't start as anything. It's grown way further than we've ever thought. We have 149,000 subscribers. Mm-hmm. So it was 87 subscribers, January 1st of 2020, right before COVID. So I invest. That's my job, is to allocate capital. If it makes sense to me, I do it. If it doesn't make sense to me, I avoid it like the plague.
And from when I started following you guys, it was not everything money, right? It was the B to Y. Learn from us when you guys were talking about the B to Y process.
Which we still talk about B to Y now, but that was a major focus.
And talk about that B to Y, because when you first came into Liberty Home Mortgage and talked about B to Y, I was like, it just obviously, as even in sports, I understand it. But when it comes from somebody who's completely outside of my world and also reiterates that, it just cements everything in.
Yeah. So I always heard everybody say A to Z. I used to always say, man, we're always so focused, which I love focusing on the start. I love that. You got to get started on the start. But then I find people getting way too distracted thinking about Z. Oh, I'm going to get to Z. Well, how you can get to Z? I'm going to get to Z. Well, you have to get to B, then C, then D. In sports, the most important play is the very next play. If you implement A, B, C, D, E, all the way to Z, you'll get to Z. If you start with A, which is still hard enough because most people don't even start with A. If you start with A and then only focus on Z, you'll never get there. You got to focus on the very next step. And that's why we call it the B to Y. It's like everybody ignores the B to Y, which will eventually be the C to X and all these other things.
Yeah.
The primary focus should be the very next step. That's it. Now you have to keep your Z in your head. This is my goal. My goal is to get to Z. But if you don't implement B to Y, you're not going to ever get to Z. And that's that my main focus is on there.
What I love about the B to Y process and how you articulate it really is it's almost like you're taking a weight off your shoulders. You know, instead of figuring out like, okay, for a sports analogy, right? Oh, we want to be state champs. We want to win the state championship. That's the goal. Okay, well, that's the goal. When we started here, we're starting the first day of practice. A lot of people get focused up on the end goal and they don't do the B to Y, right? Yep. Sometimes I think when you have such a large, grandiose goal that you want to achieve, it becomes too weighty. It weighs you down. If you miss a goal, like a sub goal or something, it hurts you. So what I like about the B to Y process is how you articulate is it's just focusing on the next step, no matter what.
And there'll be hurdles along the way. There'll be falls. There'll be misses. You're not going to win every play. You're not going to be the best in every play. But if you take the next play, okay, I didn't win this one, I'm going to win the next play and keep doing it, you'll eventually win. And that's the big key for any sort of success. You know, they always say the first million's the hardest one. The first billion's the hardest one. It's that process of saying, okay, how do we win the very next step? If you focus only, if you want to become a billionaire, as an example, to talk about a very superficial goal, I want to have $1 billion. Well, if your goal is only to have $1 billion, you're probably not going to get there. But if you say, okay, I want to figure out a business that's going to make me $100,000. Then I'm going to figure out a business that's going to make me $200,000, then $300,000, then $400,000, $500,000, all the way up. You'll eventually get to where you want to go.
Exactly.
That's the whole point of all of it.
And did you know this from an early age?
No, I just got it from trial and error.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You coined it. You coined the B to Y.
Yeah. So I never, my parents both doctors, and as much as I love them, I don't think I'm very dumbfounded by. My dad used to think there was just raw talent. That was it. You're the talented, you're not. And I'm like, and I believed that for a long time. Now I sit there and say, no, you can make yourself better. And it's all psychological. It's all how you approach things. And if you believe you can do something and go implement the steps, you'll probably hit it in some fashion, some way. In what, I don't know exactly, but you'll figure out something. Now, it doesn't matter what that goal might be, whether it's superficial with money or relationship or anything. I just believe in having goals, but then figuring out the steps to get there.
Was that so you were brought up into a household where your dad thought there was only raw talent? Like you were born great? Or no one can break that barrier? Or
he believed in you were born great. And I always just joke with them and say, then why does Tiger Woods practice more than anybody out there? Why does LeBron work out and practice more than everybody out there? He's like, well, they have talent. I'm like, I think John Daly has more talent than Tiger Woods. It's obviously a joke that Tiger Woods once said to John Daly when John said to him, hey, Tiger, why you practice so much? He goes, because I'm not as talented as you.
Yeah.
And the funny part is he's right. John Daly was raw talent. Allen Iverson was raw talent. Allen Iverson is not, in my opinion, one of the top 5 players of all time. I think you'd be hard pressed to find many people who thought Allen Iverson. But if you ask about raw talent, they probably all say Allen Iverson is the most raw talent. Okay, but why is Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, all these guys considered the best ever? Because they put the work in.
Exactly.
They put the work in. Allen Iverson said practice. We're talking about practice. I'm not practicing.
Yeah.
You know that video, right?
Not.
Please watch that video. Where he literally is talking about, it's a playoff. He's like, this is the playoffs, man. Why are we talking about tip practice? Like, he wouldn't even put the practice in.
Really?
He didn't like doing it. Okay.
And I think that it does catch up to you. I mean, you could have a lot of raw talent. You could cut corners at certain points, but when does it catch up to you? Does it catch up to you the next tournament or the next time you're trying to invest or the next time whatever it may be?
Yep.
Eventually it does catch up.
I believe purely in talking about processes. We talk about investing. People will be like, oh, you missed this investment. Yes, you're right, I did. Why? Because it didn't fit my criteria. Well, your criteria missed it. Okay. But my criteria also missed the 90% fall in all these other investments that I didn't have to do. So you're right. I missed the one that went up 1,000%.
Yeah.
But I missed the 90% to 100% drop in this list of 100 that everybody else chased. That's the process I look at,
In your approach of like dollar cost averaging and doing the 8 pillars, which is so cool. Like I've never heard of the 8 pillars. Like I've taken a lot of finance classes and everything,
Class is stupid.
But no one was able to, I guess, be as detailed into that process. Like the 8 pillars are just dollar cost. And it's not necessarily like the most difficult thing in the world. It's really just know, how you guys analyze.
Well, dollar cost averaging isn't anything revolutionary that I came up with.
Yeah.
The 8 pillars was just literally Seth one day saying to me, Paul, when you look at a company, what do you look at? I just started naming the things I look at. He's like, okay, that's 8 things. Let's call it 8 pillars. He claims he came up with pillars. I claim I came up with it. Whatever. Doesn't
really?
matter. Yes. But the bottom line is it was 8 things I looked at just naturally when looking at a company, because owning businesses allowed me to say, well, what do I focus on in my business? Well, it's these 8 things that I look at basically. There's 2 extras in there that I never worried about with my business, but with those ones, and I was just like, okay, what are stocks? I looked at it and I was like, okay, well, these are the things I'm going to look at. And it's not a way of, it's a way of screening and telling the story of a company. Same way with, you with wrestling. I'm sure there's attributes in wrestling you could say, if I don't see these 2 or 3 things somebody doing in practice or in a match, I can automatically tell they're going to be good or bad. Just like that. Now, does that mean you're going to be right every time? No. But if you're a betting person, you're to bet on, if you would have 1,000 people who all match the same criteria, you're probably gonna be right on 80 or 90% of them by using those criteria, and that's your goal. Play the numbers.
And I 100% know what you're talking about. And really, it's like you could see someone who maybe works really hard throughout the week, or whether it's wrestling or football or whatever sport it may be, but maybe they party too hard on the weekends. It's like forecasting. Like you can say, okay, well, they work really hard. Maybe they'll go up to this certain point, but that eventually is going to catch up to them.
Yeah, maybe.
In the state semifinals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's just like everything else in life. If you're a dedicated husband 5 days a week, but you cheat on your wife on the weekends, it's probably not going to work out, right?
Yeah.
And there will be people out there who can party hard and still. There are stories of some athletes who did amazing after partying really hard, but there's way more stories about athletes whose careers dwindled because they partied too hard. So somebody once said to me a brilliant thing, like, hey, we hear the stories of the people who were partying and crazy and made it, but we don't hear the 10,000 others like them who did not make it.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing.
And I remember one of the videos where you guys did when you were stock analyzing like AMC.
Yeah.
Right. I think this is when it was still pretty hyped up and everything.
Yeah,
too.
doing the whole Wall Street bets thing.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were like 100% stay away, don't invest. It's a dying business model and everything. And I don't think it was like until a couple more months it actually started going down. You made another video and you're like, well, what'd I tell you?
Yeah. And I what I try to phrase it as now is if you had 100 of these, it's going to end up very poorly on 90 or 95 of them. That's because there could be, look at Tesla. I look at the Tesla price that I said was overpriced 5 years ago, and it's a steal today. But I said it was overpriced 5 years ago. Elon Musk said it was overpriced 5 years ago, but they managed to grow so fast that it overcompensated for it. Yeah, I was wrong on them. Okay. In terms of 5 years ago. Do I still think they're overpriced today? Yes. But are they better than 5 years ago? Yes. Same with Amazon. I thought Amazon, when it was $300 a share, was overpriced. Do I think it's overpriced today? Yes. But is it worth more than $300 a share? Absolutely. So I was wrong from back then. That's what I sit there and try to teach now, is this process of saying you might find the one that works, but it's not going to make up for the ones that didn't work. And your job is to, if you knew that every single time you flipped heads, every time you flipped a coin, 52% of the time is going to hit heads, then you will make money in the long run. But you'll have stretches where it hits tails 10 times in a row if you hit them, if you flip enough. Does that mean you should drop your process? No. Doesn't mean drop the process.
So are you just like take me through your day? Are you just doing a lot of research throughout the day?
I read. I spend my time, when I say read, it's not like necessarily books. I do read books, but I spend my time reading ideas, articles, thinking is big part of my job. Like, okay, how do I do this? How do I do this? Like, what am I missing here? I mean, my job isn't when I hear people say, oh, I work 50 hours a week. I'm like, first off, if you say that, you probably don't. But secondly, I'm awake, I'm working. My sister, my brother, he runs the company now. He's involved in the day-to-day management. Mm-hmm. My job is to say, hey, Mikey, I have this idea on how we can make this business better. What do you think? Oh, I think we can implement great. Awesome. Let's go do it. What do you think of this? Blah, blah, blah. My job isn't this sit behind the desk. Hesh is out there making phone calls. That's not me. I don't even have a phone at my desk. I got rid of it so nobody can call me. I just have no desire to. Like, there's no reason for anybody to call me. Mm-hmm. My job is purely you asked me before, do I travel a lot? I don't need to live here.
Yeah.
I can live anywhere. My girlfriend and I are talking about having a second home in Dallas in the next couple of years to spend the winter times there. I don't need to be here. Mm-hmm. I spend my time thinking. If I'm awake, I'm usually thinking about the business. Mm-hmm. That's my time. So I think about investments. Absolutely. How do I do this better? How do I make? And the other thing is, the hard part is, I believe in paralysis by analysis, especially in investing. I keep my investment thesis to very small number of, even less than the 8 pillars. The 8 pillars just give me a general idea. But when it comes to my fundamental beliefs, I stick to very, very few metrics and I stick to them. Mm-hmm. I don't overanalyze this. Oh, no. It's just, let me stick. That's what's come from my years of thinking.
Mm-hmm. So do you have going into the workday, do you have things that you're specifically wanting to think about, to change, to implement, or is it all just kind of comes at you?
So I'm a big believer in I'm going to react to whatever happens during the day, right? So if I came in the office today, markets are down a lot. So I do this thing called selling puts to buy stocks at lower prices. When the markets are down a lot, those put prices skyrocket. So when I sell them, I get more money. So I pick the 20 or 30 stocks I want to own at much lower prices, and I pick dates out in the future. Mm-hmm. But if the markets were up today, I wouldn't have done that. Mm-hmm. But I reacted to the markets being down a lot today.
Okay.
If the markets are up today, I might have gone and looked at the puts that I've written before and seen which ones had gotten a big chunk of their profit already that I could exit maybe a month before I needed to, but I got 80% of the profit already. Mm-hmm. So my day is a lot of reacting. Mm-hmm. A deal might come across our desk. My business partner, Andrew, who runs our acquisitions, might say, Paul, this real estate deal just popped up. What do you think? It's just all about what... I don't have a set schedule, and I'm glad I don't, because I would be, that's not the way I would operate the best.
Yeah.
I go around, I talk to people in the, hey, what's going on with this business? What's going on with that business? What is, something we might have implemented 2 months ago. What's going on with that now? Those things. I like to look at collections of, I like to look at the higher level metrics of the things that matter to me. Mm-hmm. Each business has certain metrics I care about. I don't look at 30 metrics. I look at 2 or 3 for each business at most. Mm-hmm. And that's what I might do. I read, I play chess, do whatever.
You still doing Spanish?
Yeah, I still do Spanish every single day.
Why do you do that? Why do you learn
Spanish?
I
want to be fluent. I'm probably at a 7 or 8 year old level. So if you met a 7 or 8 year old kid in Mexico, we probably have the same level of Spanish.
Yeah.
Which is enough for me to get around great and be able to correspond. Mm-hmm. But if you try to ask me to read, even a 6th grade book, it ain't going to happen. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So
why did you choose Spanish?
I have homes in Mexico.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I have 2 homes in Mexico. I became good friends with people down there. Always was attracted to Spanish, took it in high school and college, and always kept a little bit of it in me. I always did very well with it. And just decided, you know what? I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm. The thing I love about language learning, it has a lot of parallel, because I speak German. Right?
Oh, wow.
And it has a lot of parallels really to life, right? Memorization, having to have it, learn it consistently. It's not like riding a bike where you take 4 months off and then, instantly you're back into it. It takes time to.
So how's that different than anything in life? Forget about life in general, like everything that we see.
You're right.
If you want to be good at anything, you got to do it consistently. Mm-hmm. Atomic Habits, right? That book is great.
Exactly.
Because it's all about doing small things every single day that over long periods of time compound.
Do you think having that other avenue, like learning Spanish, has helped in other aspects of your life then?
I'm sure it has.
Yeah.
I just think about it as I like to learn.
Yeah.
And I probably learned Spanish because of the other aspects of my life, enjoying learning. You know what I mean? I like chess. I play every single day. I have a chess coach. I take 2 or 3 lessons a week. Some people laugh and go, you have a chess coach? I didn't know I had those. I'm like, yeah, I have a chess coach. The joke is I hire somebody to help me with anything I want to learn.
Yeah.
So I just like learning and getting better at things. I'm not a master of all trades. I'm not a jack of all trades, master of none. But I'm willing to try almost anything and see if it sticks. Mm-hmm. Tennis is very important to me. Chess is very important to me. Spanish is very important to me. Those are the 3 things I focus on. And as you said earlier, I try to stay in shape It's not very important to me, but it's important enough where I want to be, I don't want to be that 40, 50, 60-year-old who's out of shape.
You can't walk up the stairs without huffing and puffing.
Like 90% of the 40, 50, and 60-year-olds out there.
You got it. Yeah. You and Hesh need to get on a workout regimen then.
Why? Hesh doesn't work out? He works
No,
out.
he does. He does. But he's like every day.
Oh, yeah. I do 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
With working out, with cardio, and I do 3 or 4 days of cardio, and I do 2 days of lifting. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, that's it for me.
So I want to kind of go back to the channel, Everything Money.
Yeah.
So and I've had Seth and Mo on before where they've talked about the inspiration and the come up story and everything.
Yeah, what did they say? What was the inspiration? Mo came in later.
Mo came in later, yeah. So Seth said that he was helping you with the videos, right? But it was too difficult, didn't make sense to because you weren't talking to anybody.
Yeah, he
right?
was, I remember one day just saying, Seth, you need to be the host. You need to be sitting here talking to me. He was just like, okay, because he would always tell me how to say, he'd be like, Paul, no, say it like this. Yeah. And it became, and then one day a guy that worked for us named Don said, Paul, we need to be on YouTube. And I was like, okay. And I don't go to YouTube I don't watch videos. I prefer to read an article than watching a video. He's like, we got to do YouTube. We went on YouTube and I say like this. It wasn't like this, but it felt like this later on. In January 1st, 2020, we had 87 subscribers. We were getting like 12, 15 views a video. Mm-hmm. And then January 1st of 2021, we had 8,700 subscribers. September 10th of 2020, we hit 1,000. So from January 1 to September 10th, we went from 87 to 1,000. From September 10th to October 20th, we hit another 1,000, went to 2,000. Then October 20th till the end of the year, we went to 8,700. Then 8,700 became 110 or 115,000 in January 1st of this year. Mm-hmm. And now we're at 147, 148. Mm-hmm. So our growth has slowed. We're seeing a lot of growth across the entire business, but we work on it every day. I'm not like other YouTube channels. I have full-time staff and overhead and everything, but we sell our software with it. That's what allows us to pay the bills.
Yeah. You're a YouTube star, according to many.
Yeah. So we got, I joke with my girlfriend, and like even today, when I write to somebody, let me see what I wrote. Hang on a second. I wrote something to somebody where I said, I'm a YouTube celebrity. Please don't bother me. And they laughed. And my girlfriend, whenever she teases me about something, I'll be like, Lisa, please don't speak that way to the YouTube celebrity.
Sunglasses down.
Yeah. Seth and Mo have been recognized a lot more than I have. I was recognized once in Switzerland.
Yeah.
On top of Matterhorn Mountain, not on top, at the base of Matterhorn Mountain, trying to get a ticket up there. And some guy, I walk in, the guy goes, "You're Paul from Everything Money." I am. And I was so excited because it's the only time I've been recognized, actually. But I also don't go out as much as they do.
Yeah.
But it's fun because I love teaching. I used to teach at my high school for free. The last 8-9 years, I taught investing in business and life to seniors at my high school, a Walsh Jesuit. And then now it's fun to be able to get paid to do it. But I would do it. That's the reason why I worked on YouTube. Mm-hmm. I love doing it.
Yeah.
So it was, when we had 400 subscribers, we had a setup that was like insane. I mean, $25,000 for the cameras. The studio cost me $100,000 to make. I mean, the channel cost me $250,000 to create. Yeah. With all the gear, salaries, everything, before we even had $1 of revenue. I just wanted to do it. And then all of a sudden, the software came about because somebody was asking. A lot of people kept asking for my Excel sheets, and I was like, why don't we just make the software? And so then all of a sudden, the software took off. But that's what happens in life. If you get yourself ready, then the luck occurs and the opportunity arises. Mm-hmm.
So, and I know kind of going back to when you first started, you were like, this growth was a little slow and everything.
Yeah, of course.
What kind of, was it really going back to the passion of like, I love teaching, I love doing this, that kept you going?
The hardest part was Seth. Because I was paying Seth, no, not in a bad way.
Oh,
understandably so. Like Seth was being paid a very, very small salary, and I was telling him, "Trust me, you'll make more money." Mm-hmm. And there were times when literally he'd be like, "Paul, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah,
we have 15 views, 17 views on a video," and I'm like, "I don't know."
Yeah,
but I think it'll pay off someday. Mm-hmm. And 6 months later, he was making double the salary, and then 6 months later, from that, it was quadruple. And now the guy makes multiple 6 figures a year from this channel, working 2 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he's able to do his wedding business. So that's the hard part. Seth put a lot of blind faith in me.
Uh-huh.
And don't get me wrong. I remember one point he said to me, "Paul, I don't know about this." And I put my hand out. I said, "Here's what I'll do." I gave him a number, quadrupled his base salary. I'm like, "I'll pay you 4 times more, but you don't get any revenue share."
Yeah.
And he looked at me and goes, I'll pass. I said, smart move. And that was like 4 months before he blew up.
Yeah.
So he put and I give Seth a lot of credit because he put a lot of faith in me, blind faith. And I didn't know what I was doing.
Well, you were doing a ton. I mean, I remember when because Hesh was the one that showed me because we were talking about
tons of videos.
Hey, look at check out my buddies, right? And that's when I learned from us at the time. And it was like 20, 30, 40 videos a week or something like that. I mean, maybe not quite that many, but there was a lot of content.
We had probably, right now I think we have 1,600 videos, and the channel's only been around for 2.5 years. And one point we were doing 1 video a week, then it became 2, then I said I want 1 a day. And then it became 2 a day.
Yeah.
So at one point we were doing 14, actually we might have been doing 20 videos a week at one point.
Yeah.
And now we're changing that. Now we're down to 10 or 12 videos a week, and we might be going back up to 14 or 15. The great thing about finances, there's always something to talk about.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
There's always something to talk about. Whatever it is in this world, I can relate it to value investing in some fashion. Everybody's always trying to learn investing in some point. They always have questions. It's not like your friend who has a wrestling channel. It's a very, very small niche market.
It is.
Now, we only have 149,000 subscribers, but I truly believe, and I'm not saying it just because it's ours, we have the best finance channel on YouTube because we understand investing. There are other good guys who understand investing. I can name a couple, but they don't have our personalities and our content creation and our staff. So that alone just passes them. But I think I have the knowledge. And I don't mean that to be arrogant. Like I just have the knowledge of investing that not many people do. I have the discipline and the reason I'm a good investor is not because I understand numbers very well. It's because I have the demeanor to say no to an investment that everybody else is making, that the 18-year-old kid next door is making tons of money on. And I just everybody else has FOMO. I have zero FOMO.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm the anti-FOMO. If you told me right now, Paul, making a ton of money on this, I'd just be like, I'd probably go to my office and be like, how can I bet against that?
Yeah.
Because if you're an average person making a lot of money on something, I think to myself, something's not right here. Can I make some money betting against that? That's the way I'm programmed. Because I've seen enough.
Yeah.
Now, did I used to fall for FOMO? Absolutely. Absolutely.
More of a maturity.
Yeah, but then with seeing crashes, 2 big crashes, and going, something's not connecting here. And then all of a sudden understanding value investing and immediately went, that's it. Because I always wanted to understand why. I liked results, but I always found myself happiest in life and most content when I understood the why of something. And that's what value investing is all about, is understanding the why.
So what kind of keeps you disciplined? Because there's a lot of noise out there when, it comes to like the meme stocks or drop shipping or Bitcoin or whatever it is. And you see a lot of these, 18-year-olds with the Lamborghinis and stacks of cash.
That's all fake.
Right? But
that's all fake.
100%. So even though as you've gained the amount of experience that you have, and obviously you're very well off, why don't you ever want to take risks going into those areas?
So 0, because if I don't, that's like saying, relationship analogy. That's like saying you're on a trip, your wife's not with you, a hot chick hits on you, and you go, you know what? I'm just going to do this. More power to you. But the one time you get caught, it's probably going to cost you everything. If I buy into the hype once without substantiating anything, I've opened the door to buying into everything. Now, some psychologists would call that catastrophizing it. I look at it as a mindset. If I buy only things I understand, I never make a mistake. I shouldn't say that. Years ago, I had the opportunity to buy a piece of the Miami Heat in 2008. I bailed in the deal with 2 weeks to go because of something fundamentally that changed in the business partnership of the Miami Heat. I said, I'm out. Had I stayed in the deal, I'd have made about $75 million. Do you think I regret it one bit? No. And why? Because I look at it going, I made the right decision at the time based on the information I had. If I had today's information, I would have closed that deal 2 months before, but I didn't. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze. 0 FOMO. Now, another person out there might sit there and say, that's BS. There's no way. Either that's a made up story or he does regret it. I don't regret it. Now, what I regret is the times I believed in something and convinced myself, you know what? You're probably missing something. As opposed to, no, all the evidence points to you need to do this. Those are the times I have regret. Going, son of a bitch. I believed in this. Twice it's happened in the last 2 years where I said, I believed in this. Everything said, go buy this. Somebody whispered in my ear that I respected. And I said, I'm not going to buy this. And it ended up skyrocketing because of something that they said that was just not necessarily something I believed in. So that's why now when somebody says, can I give you an opinion? I literally will say to somebody, no. people might sit there and say, oh, you're closed-minded. I'm not closed-minded. When you've thought about the things I've thought about, when you have, then I will respect. If you're at the places that's why the two people though, I don't regret it that much because those are two people that I want to be like. They're better investors than me. And they said, well, what about this? And I was like, okay, they probably thought about it better than me. Okay. It just happened to be 2 for 2. Both those guys talked me out of something that I wanted to do. And those are the only 2 things I've ever been talked out of in my life about doing investment. But guess what? I really have no FOMO about that. I just sit there and say, well, Paul, lesson learned. If you believe something and you've done your homework, you're thorough enough, go do it. I never have any, the discipline to me is just so second nature because I just look at it going, I think everybody out there is a joke. I really do.
Yeah.
I just believe that 99.9% of investors out there are a joke, an absolute laughable. And so it's very easy to go, well, you're stupid. See ya.
Yeah. Meet Kevin's a joke. I love that video, but no, it's true. I mean, I love the way you guys position yourselves. I mean, yes, like to circle back from the very beginning, from a perspective I do perceive you as the master because you've been in the game for so long where you have a lot of these finance gurus that come out now and they made a good bet, you know.
But you know what? If somebody spoke like me, if you came here right now and you spoke like me and I genuinely believed it and you're 26, I'd be like, that kid's good. Yes, having my ability is based on time. Yes, it helped that I've been doing this for 25 years, even though I'm only 40. But there are people who've been doing this for 65, 70 years. They're 65, 70 years old and I think are jokes, right? So time, when people say to me, I've been doing this for a long time, I shut that. I immediately go, you're done. It's process that matters. And you can have a process with whether you're worth $1 million or 100 million or $1 billion, you can have a good process. You can have a terrible process whether you're worth $1 million, 100 million or $1 billion. To me, it's more impressive about, let's have a conversation about your beliefs. And if you believe things in a logical sense, I buy into that.
Do you think it's hard now for the average person to kind of stay disciplined, right? I mean, there's a lot of noise going on right now. I think the market's, the Nasdaq's down like 2-3% right now. I mean,
it was more than that when at one point it was 4.5% today.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been pretty up and down.
I hope it's more.
Yeah.
Please Lord, please Lord, please Lord, be more. Please Lord, please Lord, please Lord, be more. 3.8%.
Yeah.
Access to information makes it very difficult. Some people say that Buffett couldn't make the returns he makes today because back then when in 1955. There was no internet. He had to scour for financial statements, and then in order to buy shares, he had to find people who had shares. So yeah, there was a lot of disinformation on equities. The same point, what people don't remember is we had a 40% crash in 1 month 2 years ago because of the internet. Everybody exasperated what was going on. So I think that the good times, the highs will be much higher, but I think the lows will be much worse because of that. Because that information, that fear will get people to faster fear, just go boom, boom, I'm out.
Their herd mentality.
Yeah, of course. The lemmings will jump off the cliff, which I found out recently that's not the right, lemmings don't jump off a cliff, but either way, the highs and lows will be much worse because of this information. And listen, it's hard because you hear people saying, oh, I made this, but nobody ever talks about their losses. You know what I mean? Okay, sounds good.
But you're seeing like a lot of those, 18 to 24 months of, average investors who really don't know what they're doing, getting into these big bets and making a ton of money, right?
Now they're not.
Well, now they're not. You know what I mean? So do you kind of ever, I guess, pump your chest or like hold your head high and just say, haha, I told you so? Or is it more just...
So I joke with people and say, not yet. Do I sit there now and say a little bit? Yeah, because a lot of the stocks I said avoid, you can go look at our videos. We don't take down videos. A lot of the stocks I said avoid are down 80, 90%. And when people were telling me this guy is stupid, the Meet Kevin's was like, this guy's an idiot. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I always joke with some fans. I'm like, hey, listen, Meet Kevin ran for governor and he knew who I was as a guy bashing him. And Meet Kevin's going to look very, very stupid. He believed in Tesla so much, yet at one point he sold his Tesla shares, then got back in after it rebounded. Well, how do you believe in Tesla? Kathy Wood from ARK. She believed in Tesla so much, reduced her shares of Tesla. She thought it was a $4,000 stock. Well, Kathy, if it fell 40%, you should be buying as much as you can. But she didn't. She went and sold. So I will beat my chest when the market's fallen 40, 50% more from today. That's when I'll sit there and say, I was right. You were all wrong. Fuck all you.
And you think that's
I do think that's going to, not for sure. Nothing's for sure.
Nothing's for sure, but you think it's more likely than not. Like,
I think I think the downside is way worse than people expect it to be.
Really?
Yes.
Looking at what metrics are you
Every
looking at?
long-term valuation metric, price of sales, stock market GDP, and 10-year cyclically adjusted PE ratio, they all scream massive overvaluation. Where they have to fall. Some of them have to scream that you have to fall 50 or 60% from today's levels.
Really?
Listen, I just react to that. Now, am I finding good values at nearby level? Yeah, of course, in some stocks, but there'll be a point someday when people are like, so it's funny. The most common criticism we got on the channel was, you say every stock is overpriced. There will be a time when people say, you think every stock is a buy. Yeah. Not every stock, but there'll be a time when I say 80% of stocks are a buy. Like, and I think it's funny that the same people who bought Coinbase at 250 are now saying don't buy it at 60. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
You liked the stock more when it was 4 times higher than it was today. That's the interesting part. People will tell me like, Paul, why do you like Intel? It's $38 a share. Yeah, because I liked it at 50. I love it at 38, and I will gladly buy it at 25 and 30. Are you crazy? No. Will I be right on Intel? I don't know. But if I buy 30 or 40 stocks the same way I'm buying Intel and all these other companies, I will do very, very well. Will it be Intel specific? I don't know. But the group will do better than everything else.
And I think that's the same, like, so me being a mortgage banker so you have a lot of first-time home buyers getting beat out of, buying their first home because they think house prices are so high, right? And they, relatively they are, right? But it deters them from wanting to buy because of the perception of how high it is. Like when you were looking 3-4 years ago, people were having the same rhetoric.
That is true.
But 3-4 years later...
See, I don't look at it like that. The way I look at it is, see, that's the thing. Coinbase, $280 stock. I thought it was worth 5 or something, maybe 0. People would look at it and say, oh, 65 is a deal. No, it's not. To me, it's still overpriced. To me, when it comes to home prices, I look at incomes and home values. That's where I drive all of my value on real estate. Okay, home prices. If the average income here is $100,000 a year and the average home is $200,000, we're probably okay. We're doing fine. The average income is $100,000. The average price is $1.2 million. Probably a problem. San Francisco, Vancouver, Toronto.
100%.
So
yes.
That's where I'm looking at it going. Now, does that mean the home price have to fall? No, inflation can take things. All I'm saying is there's a disconnect in value here, and I just choose to stay out. Now, stocks got so massively overpriced where I was comfortable saying the same way people dollar cost average in on the way down, I'm a dollar cost average a short going up. And I shorted the most overpriced thing out there, the NASDAQ 100, and I have gotten a 35% return in 4 months on my short because, why? Because I sat there and said, eventually it'll turn. But at one point I was down a ton. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, I do everything based on value metrics. I don't care about home prices in and of themselves. I care about how are they in relation to incomes. And if all of a sudden incomes double tomorrow, home prices are a steal today. Is it probable or possible that home prices double tomorrow? It's possible, not probable. I'm looking for situations in where possible and probable are very, very close and very high.
And you're talking specifically as a real estate investor.
As any investor. Any investor.
So I think I'm saying more so like as just an average, mom and dad who want to buy a new home.
Oh, okay.
How like, oh, I don't want to get into this home because the perception of this home it's too high right now.
Okay.
Whereas I'm just going to get beat out of the market because I just don't want to have to pay that price.
Okay.
Because what you're saying is everything is eventually going to go back up,
Sure.
So instead of just,
I didn't necessarily say that, but I get what you're saying.
I mean,
do I believe that home prices 30 years from now will be higher than today? Absolutely. But for somebody who's entering the market, if they're buying a home to live there for 2 or 3 years in this market, even if prices could go up, I would say it's a risky proposition. They could end up being okay. But if you do that 100 times, you're probably going to end up in a problem. If you plan on living in a house for 30 years, I don't care what price you pay today, it'll probably go okay. If you just pay down your debt, save your money, pay down your debt, live a good life, wait 20 or 30 years for inflation to take over, you will do great. That's what I'm saying about that. But if I have friends who will sit there and say, hey, Paul, I'm moving to blah, blah, blah for 2 years and I'm coming back home and I'm going to buy a house. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't care where you live. I would not buy a house if you're going to live there for 2 years.
You'll pay more in closing costs.
Well, not only that, I think, what does the price have to appreciate after commissions to make it worth your while? As opposed to the flexibility of saying, throw the keys of the apartment back to the landlord, I'm out. Now, if you plan on living in a place for 20 or 30 years and you move after 2 years, that's just dumb luck. Okay, fine. I was planning on living here for 30 years. Then all of a sudden, I got married and wanted to be close back home to family. Let me go back to Cleveland. Okay.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine that happened to in Chicago. He moved to Chicago, bought a condo. All of a sudden, he got married. He and his wife wanted to live back home in Akron. Took a big hit in his condo. That's life. That's life. And he was like complaining about it. I go, what are you complaining about? He goes, I took a hit. I'm like, okay, well, too bad. Then save it and rent it. He's like, I don't want to do that. Well, then luckily you do well and you can absorb it. That was just dumb luck. That's why you don't put everything in one basket. I believe in diversification in that sense.
Are you buying any real estate these days, or are you just kind of staying out of that?
I mean, we get deals thrown to us and we just sit there and say, pass. We're not willing to make the assumptions that need to be made in order to make them work. That's it.
So not much right now, just
zero.
Really?
Yeah. Nothing makes sense to us. Does that mean things aren't going to go up? Things aren't going to do well? No, of course not. It's just that if I have 100 deals that look exactly like these deals today and 100 times in the future, I'll probably not do as well. My goal, everybody's money is limited. My goal is to make great deals, not good deals. My biggest criticism is like, oh, Paul, you're missing out on. No, I'm 40. I'm going to be around for 50 or 60 more years. I have limited capital. I don't care how much money you have limited capital unless you're a billionaire or higher. Even if you have $100 million, you have limited capital. Your job is to do the best deal possible. You work too hard for your money to go overspend and buy assets that don't make sense. I sleep very, very well at night on the deals that I've done. I'll always figure out, I'm an investor. I'll figure out a way to make money in every market. And I have. Even in booming real estate, I guess what? My apartment buildings I currently own, my houses I currently own, we kill it on. We've driven rents up a ton. We renovate. We make 30 or 40% a year on them. Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. By the way, because I bought them at the time that nobody wanted them, or I bought assets that nobody wanted. They're like, you're crazy for buying that. Really? I make 30 or 40% now. That's just people being stupid. Whenever every single time somebody's told me, why'd you buy that? Ends up being my best deal.
Really?
Every single time.
Do people come out at you like, Paul, you're
like
crazy.
An attorney of mine or friend, why'd you buy that deal? Like, well, it makes sense to me. I wouldn't be buying over there. Great. That's exactly why I bought it, because you're thinking like everybody else.
Yeah.
The price is lower. I will gladly buy it.
Back to the herd mentality.
Yeah, of course.
And everything. No, that's awesome. So I kind of just want to look at kind of current events right now.
Let's do it. Let's see how the market's doing. Wait a second. Let's see how the market's doing just for fun.
So CPI,
3.7% down.
You have a consumer price index that's pretty high. Gas prices are pretty high. Inflation is pretty high. You have a war going on in Ukraine.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And I personally try and stay away from a lot of the news.
I'm yawning for those of you who don't know. Why am I yawning?
It's all noise to you?
Yeah, it's all noise.
Exactly.
It's all gibberish to me.
Do you go back and just say like, how do you educate your listeners on how to stay positive? Just like
go back in history, go back to 1900s to today, look at the U.S. economy, look at the stock market, how it's done since then, and go look at every single bad piece of news we've had since 1900. And guess what happens? Over long periods of time, you wish you bought every single month in, month out during booms and busts. Now, somebody might sit there and say, well, Paul, why don't you do that? Because I can. Because that's the luxury that having a lot of money gives you. I can pick and choose the things I do. And I have 8 or 9 businesses that all spit off a lot of cash flow for me. I don't need to be invested at all times. I'd rather wait for doing great deals than doing good deals. It's all just noise. It's all just gibberish.
So for the average investor, just stay strong and
dollar cost average into low cost ETFs every single month. I don't care what. The time you're the most scared, that's when you need to force yourself to do that trade. Okay, it's the first of the month. I'm buying my $1,000 of VOO or SPY. Just keep doing it. And you'll wake up. People don't realize nobody beats the market. Nobody even matches the market because they get out too early and they enter too late. That's the problem.
So you don't need a financial advisor to tell you this?
I think financial advisors are the biggest waste of money of all time.
Explain.
They're absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
They're average Joes who know how to sell. That's it. They don't understand investing. Are there good financial advice? Sure. If you want somebody to give you a budget, blah, 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 but they're costing you millions of dollars in retirement. We have a video about that. Go to Everything Money, YouTube Everything Money, and go look up our financial planners cost you $1 million in retirement. It's absolutely tragic to me that people believe they're smart. I remember once challenging somebody to an investing competition because they were so arrogant about Bitcoin. And they said, I'll challenge you, but you can't have the help of a financial advisor. I'm like, don't worry.
Need one.
The fact that this person has an MBA from some school and thought that a financial advisor would help me do better showed me how bad it was. Financial advisors are stupid.
Yeah. It's weird because I always see like Dave Ramsey, like he would agree with you, financial advisors.
Dave Ramsey's a moron too, but go ahead.
And that's what I was going to get into. One of your most popular videos on Everything Money is Dave Ramsey. The most popular is Dave Ramsey is wrong. You should not pay off your house.
Yeah,
right?
It's the stupidest thing in the world to do to pay off your house. And I'm glad I'm talking to a mortgage broker about that.
I agree. No, I'm 100. I mean, I think when you allocate money different places, it makes more sense.
Yeah. And by the way, in current rate environments, as it gets higher and higher, then maybe it makes sense because now you're giving yourself a guaranteed return. But back when rates are 3%, if you pay off your mortgage, you're literally giving yourself a 3% return. Now, Dave Ramsey is good for getting people disciplined to get out of debt. I will give him that. After that, though, if you need Dave Ramsey for that, the second that happens, you need to turn off Dave Ramsey and grow up and not listen to Dave Ramsey about anything else.
Mm-hmm. I think, honestly, like, I think a lot of people who do listen to him are losing a lot of money.
Of course, they don't realize it. And their comment is, the people, I love the people on the show is like, some people call and say, hey, I have a mortgage and should I pay it off early? Well, I don't know. Do you want to pay $120,000 in interest? Sounds pretty obvious to me. And I literally think I call that financial manslaughter. They're literally killing that person without knowing it. Mm-hmm. They're literally killing that person financially without knowing it. I've coined this phrase, financial manslaughter, about Meet Kevins and Stock Mo's and all these idiots of the world.
Yeah.
Because I look at it going, they're giving advice that people listen to, and it's absolutely terrible advice. Mm-hmm. My process works. Am I going to be right on everything? No. There's a difference. They don't have a process, and they're just throwing darts and hoping it works out. Mm-hmm. My process does work, but I'm going to be wrong on things. My stocks are down. My stocks overall are down this year, but they're not down the 20+% the market's at, not including my short. I'm up if you include my short. I'm up big time if you include my short. But my stocks are down. But are they down the level of everybody else? Not even close.
100%.
Well, not 100%.
Well, you know that, whatever.
We can talk about numbers, saying 100%. But yeah, process is what drives everything. A good process works. Just like in sports, a good process works. There's a reason why when they're on the football field, they're running plays. Those processes do work. If you just say to everybody, just do whatever you want, you're going to get smoked.
Don't cut corners. Stick to the process.
And keep it simple. Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer in KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
100%. Yeah, I think when people get way too overcomplicated and they try to make it more difficult.
Well, the interesting part is we glorify people in business and investing when they overcomplicate things. When in actuality, the more you complicate, study after study has shown, the more complication you introduce into investing, the worse your returns get.
Makes sense, yeah.
Every time I back test like certain values metrics, the more metrics I add, the worse the returns are. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you even see that in sales. You have a lot of new sales guys when they come in and they start to figure things out. They get away from the script that made them get to where they were at.
Of course.
Right now, they start talking about things that just don't matter, just to maybe sound smart or maybe to, I don't know, maybe think it's better. But really, when you keep it stupid simple, it gets
stupid.
Well, yeah, keep it simple, stupid, whatever.
Or keep it stupid simple.
I got it from Aaron Grossman. He said that.
Keep it stupid simple. I don't get that.
I don't know, man.
It's keep it simple, stupy.
Okay.
Yeah, because the whole point is to keep it simple. Mm-hmm. And then you're calling the person stupid. That's the whole purpose of it. It's like, if you keep everything in the world that is done simply, if there's a simple way to do something, it always ends up being the right way. The first thing I do in every single class I used to teach at my high school, I'd put somebody around the edge of the room, and say, walk to the door. They'd walk to the door, straight to the door. Then I would go up and down the aisles and then get to the door and say, who did it better? Like, well, he did. Like, who worked harder? They'd be like, well, you did. I'd be like, well, yeah, but he did it. So we glorify doing more complication. Mm-hmm. We glorify in this world doing more work. When in actuality, we got the same result, but he did it just more effectively and more efficiently. And that's the way it works in investing. There are certain metrics, if you look at them, they just work over time. Mm-hmm. Now they're not going to always work, but over long periods of time, they work better than everything else.
There's a big push and pull, I think. I mean, especially with me, where I look at a certain situation and I'm like, is there a more efficient way to do this, or am I just going to grind it out?
Great
you know
question.
What I mean? And sometimes it's hard to differentiate.
It's very hard. Do I test it?
Exactly. So I don't know. Like, do you have advice? Like, does it just take time? You think to just go ahead and see? This is something I had to just work really hard. There's no.
Listen, Hesh has a script for you, right?
No, a script?
Yeah,
like a sales script?
Yeah.
No.
So how do you sell?
Just sell. I don't know. Like,
you guys aren't taught any sort of sales process?
He doesn't. Okay, let me back up. There is an initial script, right? But you can cater it toward how you want. Like, I don't go off that script anymore, right?
Okay.
I mean, there is something that.
And how have your results been since getting off the script? Have they gotten better, worse, the same?
Better.
Really?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay. Well, you found a better way then. I was going to say, like, he gave you a script. You went and you said, I'm going to do this better. Great. More power to you. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Mm-hmm. Like, one of the hardest things for me is, accumulating, money. I don't have kids, but my brother has 2 daughters. And I always go back and forth, like, do we leave the money to the girls? Do we give it away? Do we give them a portion? But my biggest goal is to teach them how to manage money, not to be a good investor, great investor like me. It's how do you just not screw up? That's just my main goal. That's going to stick to a few fundamental things. Maybe that script was a few fundamental things that you want expanded on. Great. But to me, life is about the few fundamental things that you keep tried and true. I don't like it when people say, I'm a real estate guy. I'm a stock guy. No, I believe in being an investor or not an investor. If you're an investor, you can learn anything. If you're not an investor, it's going to be hard. Like there's no like a real estate. I mean, I might be an expert in real estate, whatever that means, but I believe in understanding how money is made. And those are the things I want to focus on. And that's the kind of thing that I teach with everything in life is like the process of learning is what you need to learn. You need to learn how you're going to learn and get better at something, whatever that is. If you asked me to be a salesperson today, I probably wouldn't end up being a good salesperson, but I'd be way better than I am than today if I went and learned a process, right? But I wouldn't necessarily be a good salesperson because there is certain, like, you know, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but everything in life, the reason I bring this all up is everything in life is about process at the end of the day. And it doesn't mean every process is going to work to the best. I'm always altering my process. I'm looking at my process saying, well, my value investing is, you know, Warren Buffett changed his process completely and how he invested for value investing in like middle way through his career. I've changed my process. Do my returns get better or worse? I believe in buying big companies. One of my mentors in investing believes in buying small companies. He's going to far outperform me. But to me, I'd rather stick with the big companies I know than the small companies that are obscure $20 million companies that are sitting in, you know, Ottawa, Canada, or some hillbilly part of Canada. It doesn't make me comfortable. Yeah. I'd rather be able to get a 12% return on Microsoft at some point than a 25% return on those companies in Canada. Yeah. That's just what works for me.
It makes sense.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's all about catering the process to what you want to do without leaving the fundamentals of the process. That makes sense. That. Yeah, it's hard to do though because you don't know. Like you said. Teaching my nieces someday investing will be teaching them the process without them thinking themselves they can do it. I actually just want to teach them a process and say, guys, stick to this. If you want to go do something else, do it on a very, very small piece of money. Just have fun. But other than that, stick to this process for the vast majority of the money. For you, and go ahead.
No, you're right though. The process by which he gives us is the same process that I use, but it's not scripted the same.
Great.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. But hey, Paul. I mean, I know we're kind of getting toward the tail end here and everything. So I know we talked a lot about, you know, current events and everything, and obviously it's pretty scary out there for a lot of people, but you own a ton of businesses and you're doing pretty well in life. What advice would you give to
get shit done?
Yeah.
That's it. Just get more stuff done today than you did yesterday. Just keep getting more and more stuff done. That's the only thing I've found that works in success in life is getting things done. That's it. I don't care how smart or dumb you are. If you don't get things done, it doesn't matter. If you're a PhD and you don't get things done, you're going to do way worse than a high school dropout who gets a lot of things done.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the one fundamental thing that matters in life.
Just get shit done, baby.
I wrote a 40,000 word book called Get Shit Done. I never published it because I was like, whatever. But I might publish it someday. But all I care about is getting shit done. That's it.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
All
Be
right,
the why. Get shit done. Listen to my YouTube channel.
Oh, we'll put the link in there. All right, Paul. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Keep it real.
Thanks, man.
No problem.